time,
and we'll just mute ourselves because the sound will be clear, because so we need to mute ourselves here.
Yeah. I will also introduce some house rules in a minute, so to ask everybody to mute their microphones when they are not talking. But I hope the internet connection will be stable, and just need to connect my computer. Salam alaikum, good morning. I see the names popping up. We still wait 2 minutes until we start at 12 sharp. Good morning. I see Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. Salam alaikum. Lebanon. Yes, we can start. Like our Lebanese friends say, I will try it in Arabic. Lazem mabalish. Let's give it a start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Good morning. Salam alaikum. Marhaba. I hear also the translation, so we have some problem, I think. So I'll try again. I switch to English and I mute the original. Yeah, I don't hear now the Arabic. Is it okay? I think it's okay, yeah? Okay. So again, good morning, marhaba, salam alaikum, sabah al-khair, and welcome to our webinar that UNESCO office in Beirut is jointly conducting with the Arab Bureau of Education for the Gulf States, ABEX, and with the International Bureau of Education, IBE, UNESCO's Institute for Curriculum Development. This is one first webinar on the topic of curriculum adjustment. We said post-pandemic curriculum adjustment because we hope that there will be an end of this pandemic and the lessons we learned from this very difficult period could be actually brought forward into changes that make sense for learning and for improving the outcomes of our learners. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. this afternoon in some places or this evening in some other places. I see many participants from different countries, and I would like to be very brief with my introduction so that we can allow more space for our presenters. This webinar is actually aiming at discussing the issue of curriculum. There are many studies, many researches, many discussions on teachers, for instance, how teachers have been affected, schools altogether, learners, for instance. Next week, our office will share together with UNICEF and the World Bank a report on learning loss. And so we have a lot of information about different domains of education, different areas that have been affected by curriculum, by this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. But we have less information about curriculum adjustment. And we tried now with this webinar to look more into what happens with the curriculum, what types of solutions countries found to adjust the curriculum to this new situation. And we hope that this discussion will actually constitute the basis for further research next year that we want to carry out for the entire Arab region. In a minute, I'll introduce Dr. Rada Wada, who will present a study that we commissioned for now, which is a pilot study, because it's just a very initial attempt to understand what happened in the area of curriculum and learning. But the study needs to be improved, and we need to find ways to extend it to the entire region. For now, it's actually a study that looked into the situation of 5 countries, but we, of course, from examples, we can learn a lot, but it's also about how to actually generalize or how to find common trends or common issues that can then inform research and policy development and capacity development. There is also a need, for instance, to look more into the literature that is very rich. Dr. Awada will present in a minute, as said, and she's talking in the study about a plethora of literature. Renato Operti, who's with us, and he's representing IBE. He has coordinated with Professor Reimers a book that was just published on lessons learned from the pandemic. Then UNESCO and UNICEF and the World Bank, they authored several international reports on lessons learned from these 2 years, very difficult years that schools have been through. So we have to build on literature on all these researches and try to be more specific for the Arab region. Before giving the word to Dr. Rada Wada, I want to introduce quickly some house rules. And that's about language and interpretation. So you have on your screen the symbol, the Earth globe. For interpretation, you can listen to this webinar either in English or in Arabic, and you please mute your original language. So actually, that's I hope possible. And then during the discussions, I will share different documents. Again, the webinar info and agenda. We'll share the summary, the executive summary of this pilot study report. And then at the end, we'll share also Dr. Rada Wada's PowerPoint presentation. If you would like to comment, to share your questions, please use the chat function and the question and answer part. Our 2 colleagues, Noor Osta and Lilian Eldobazi from the UNESCO office in Beirut, they will help me collect your questions and comments, and then we will share them with the speakers during this open session. There will be also a recording of this session available through YouTube. And also yesterday, when we had a webinar on formative assessment, I informed that now in December, we will place all these recordings on the UNESCO's website so that you have access to this database of previous webinars on different topics and the brief reports that are accompanying these recordings. And finally, you will receive also certificates that are issued automatically, and our colleagues will take care of this process, our IT colleagues, and many thanks to them, Mahmoud and Eli. Now it's time to start the discussion and to give the floor for 30 minutes to Dr. Radha Wada to introduce the findings, the main findings of this pilot study on post-curriculum, post-pandemic curriculum adjustment. Dr. Radha Wada, she's a very well-known expert in education with a focus on curriculum, on teachers, but also on other issues. She has a long experience as a teacher and trainer. She's the recipient of several important awards in education, and she has worked extensively with UNESCO and with other agencies on research topics, but also in projects of capacity development. She used to also work in the capacity of advisor for the Minister of Education in Lebanon and the Prime Minister of Lebanon. And she is also a former scholar of Fulbright in 2016. So without further ado, I will invite Dr. Radha to introduce the findings of this pilot study, which again are to have us launch the discussion on curriculum, to let us think about how these issues can be researched better next year, and how can we help curriculum developers, teachers, principals, and other stakeholders deal with this important aspect. The study, as you will see, also looked into the very important efforts, the tremendous efforts Arab countries, ministries of education, and other stakeholders made to cope with these challenges of the post-COVID situation. And one important part of the study is also, of course, the challenges that are more specific for curriculum. So Dr. Radha, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dakmara. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
You have to unmute yourself. Sorry. Yeah.
I did. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me now, Dr. Dakmara? Yes. Assalamu alaikum. مرحبا. صباح الخير. مساء الخير. على حسب التايم زون اللي انتم فيه. يسعدني كثير انه الفرصه انه نشارك معكم نتائج هيدي الدراسه المصغره اللي كانت من اوائل الدراسات اللي الهدف منها كانت تبحث بتعديل المناهج فيما بعد جائحه كوفيد 19 وتعديل المناهج والامور المتعلقه بهذه المناهج كمان بعد جائحه كوفيد 19. I will بلش البرزنتيشن باللغة الإنجليزية. طبعا في interpretation simultaneous interpretation للغة العربية، وبتمنى إنه يكون في مساحة مهمة للبحث والمناقشة بالنتائج هالدراسة المصغرة اللي كانت تتناول 5 دول عربية، والهدف انه منها انها بعدين تتوسع لتتناول المنطقة العربية. ال5 دول عربية كانوا قطر، الامارات، لبنان، العراق، أو definitely طبعا سلطنة عمان. أول ما منبلش ما فيني إلا أشكر الدكتورة دكمارا ومكتب اليونسكو للجهود الرائعة جدا اللي خلت هيدي الدراسة أغنتها جدا جدا، وإن شاء الله بتوصلكم دراسة كاملة بوقت لاحق، لأنها دراسة جدا غنية، دراسة جدا كبيرة، وتناولت كل الأمور اللي بتتعلق بتعديل المنهج فيما بعد جائحة كورونا أو جائحة كوفيد-19، والأمور اللي بتتعلق بتعديل المناهج. So as I have just said, I would like to thank Dr. Dakmara for the greatest efforts in shaping and revising this pilot study. And I'd like as well to extend my gratefulness and appreciation for the focal persons in the 5 Arab countries for their tremendous help as well in collecting data and in materializing this pilot study. What's very important is that what Dr. Dakmara has just mentioned is that this study is a pilot study. It has been limited to 5 Arab countries, namely Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, Sultanate of Oman, and Iraq. But in the future, the findings of this study would serve as a backbone for further research that's going to entail the entire Arab region and not to be restricted to the 5 Arab countries I have just mentioned. What all of us know is that education during COVID-19 pandemic has turned out to be an unstructured education, as UNESCO definitely indicated in 2020. And the last 2 years were in a way or another exceptional. They have provided us with a lot of lessons and illuminating experiences that would serve us most when it comes to the adjustment of curriculum and the curriculum related matters. This is why this study has served 6 main purposes. The first main purpose of this study was to uncover the challenges that have been actually incurred and that have befallen these 5 Arab countries in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. And the second main purpose was to uncover the vital roles of technologies that has shaped, let's say, addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. The third purpose was to explore to what extent inclusive environments have been provided and to what extent gender inequalities have been affected when it comes to education. One more purpose was to investigate the teachers and educators' perceptions of the adjustments that have befallen the curriculum and curriculum-related matters. This is why this study has utilized the following methodology. The study utilized the mixed methods design that entailed employing qualitative and quantitative data. The instruments of this study were mainly interviews with policymakers of the ministers of education and higher education of the 5 Arab countries, a questionnaire, a 10-item questionnaire incorporating a close-ended and open-ended items that have been sent to educators and teachers, and desk review, a very comprehensive desk review. And again, I'd like to thank Dr. Dakmara for revising, the whole thing, and for still working as well on revising the whole thing and enriching this study further. These were the instruments. The participants that have filled out the survey, the 10-item survey, were mainly 206 participants. And here I have to thank again the focal persons who forwarded the link of this survey to teachers, especially that the time of collecting data was July and August, and these 2 months were vacation months for teachers. The very good thing is that the questionnaire has been converted into a link that has been forwarded to teachers via WhatsApp. And this is why we were able to have 206 teachers who filled out this questionnaire. And we extend our thankfulness to them. The data that were solicited from actually these teachers and educators were very vital because these data uncovered the challenges that were actually faced by these teachers, uncovered as well the vital roles of technologies, uncovered as well the remarkable and commendable efforts that have been exerted by the ministers of education and higher education of these 5 countries. And as well, they revealed like lessons, vital lessons that have been learned, and as well shed light on the promising practices and on the illuminating actually partnerships that have been signed like in partnership with UNESCO and other actually like curriculum bodies to enhance and to adjust the curriculum and the curriculum related matters. This is why the study findings, as you can see, will be like, you know, focused on these 5 countries now, because this is a pilot study, but later on the data would like form a backbone for further research related to the adjustment of curriculum and other curriculum matters. If you look here, before we start, like with the before we start delving into the findings, into the challenges, into the lessons learned, into addressing how like inclusive environments have been ensured, to what extent inclusive environments have been ensured, and before as well starting with the recommendations that have been given based on the data that were collected, and based on the existing literature, existing plethora of literature reviewed. You will see that like some of the question items of the study entailed asking teachers about like, you know, attending training, serving, raising the awareness on remote teaching strategies and the adoption or the integration of 21st century skills. You'll find out that 62.5 out of these teachers received the training. Though they received the training, they are asking for more training in order to be ready for the adjustment that should befall the curriculum and the curriculum related matters. And the remaining teachers were not like, you know, able to receive, you know, the training they desired in order, you know, to serve the purposes of adjusting the curriculum and the curriculum related matters. If you look at the second graph, you will find out that many teachers, the majority of teachers like stated that they'd like actually to receive as well more professional development, more guidelines when it comes to the adoption of new resources and new materials that address the integration of ICT into classrooms, and more as well training when it comes based on this like graph as well, when it comes to recommendations, more training on establishing stronger bonds with their students, and more as well training that should ensure the well-being of both teachers and the students. And as well, they have raised the importance of having as like a new training that would enable them to design, to develop more activities that would enhance the creativity, communication, collaboration, assessment, and leadership skills of both teachers and students. And what's very noticeable is that they as well have revealed that teachers are are supposed to assume now a new role. And this new role is supposed to be as well conveyed in the curriculum adjustments and in the adjustments of the curriculum related matters. And this is why the study, this pilot study, has rendered the challenges. The challenges were mainly based on the communication, on the engagement of learner, on increasing the motivation of both learners and students in emergencies, and on enhancing the well-being of both. And as well, one vital a challenge was related to academic integrity and academic ethics, especially when entails assessment, whether we're talking about, and they definitely here the recommendations based on the existing literature and the existing plethora of literature, we'll be talking about ongoing assessment, the formative ongoing assessment, and and that should involve the learners, the peers, and the teacher as well, and should be ongoing. And we'll be talking about the alternative assessment methods and approaches that should be implemented in order to ensure greater academic integrity and to ensure not having the academic ethics and their academic integrity violated. One more actually challenge, the challenges have in these 5 Arab countries, the intensity of these challenges has varied. This is why you find some challenges have been more intense like in Iraq and Lebanon than they were actually in Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Sultanate of Oman, but due to the economic capacity of the countries and due as well to the readiness of the teachers and the students to embark the online learning and teaching process. For example, one of the major challenges was the smooth transition from in-person classes into online classrooms. This transition has been smooth to a certain extent mainly in United Arab Emirates and in Qatar. It has been as well smooth to a certain extent, less smooth in the Sultanate of Oman. However, it was not smooth at the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in both Iraq and Lebanon. And we will mention definitely the circumstances that have led to making this a transition not very smooth in Iraq and Lebanon. Not to forget that Lebanon and Iraq have exerted remarkable efforts, and they have as well now, recently as well, adopted the national policy on digital education in partnership with UNESCO, and the 5-year plan has enabled Lebanon, or would enable Lebanon, to carry out the adjustments that should be for the curriculum and curriculum-related manners in a smoother manner. And Iraq as well has recently signed sort of agreements in partnership with UNESCO, UNICEF, and the Directorate of Education to ensure as well a smoother, or to ensure, let's say, avoiding the challenges that they actually faced at the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and to be able to face other emergencies in education that would arise, would hopefully not in the future. The transition, one more challenge was moving in the 5 countries, was moving the environment education to homeschooling. That rendered challenges as well to the part-time students and to the entire actually family of the learner. And as well some studies have highlighted and shed light on the significance of of adopting or using Blackboard-based instruction, and on as well the necessity of using synchronous and synchronous activities in the aftermath as well of COVID-19 pandemic, and not only as well in certain emergencies that would or might arise in the future. A third challenge, or a fourth challenge, was the lack of technological tools. That has varied as well among the 5 Arab countries, because Qatar and the United Arab Emirates did not have a shortage when it comes to technological tools, because these 2 countries were able to show readiness to give workshop and to give instruction using the online environment, and were able as well to ensure their students the high-tech devices prior to the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic. What is very vital is that the Sultanate of Oman was able to quickly, based on an interview conducted with the advisor of the Minister of Education, Higher Education, to quickly provide all learners with the necessary laptops, iPads, tablets needed for pursuing online education, and quickly providing them with the necessary instruction needed and the training needed to use these ICT tools and technologies perfectly well. And what has been considered as well as a further challenge in these 5 countries, as well to to a certain extent, the extent of that challenge varied, as we have just mentioned, among these countries, but it remained a common challenge. Was the insufficient internet actually accessibility on internet, connectivity, and that has remained a challenge. All the countries have been working on addressing this challenge. And one more a challenge was providing inclusive environments. We wanted, the study intended actually to investigate whether inclusive environments were provided to learners in the 5 Arab countries. The findings indicated that inclusive environments were affected and were not fully provided or were not fully ensured, and the gender inequalities were aggravated or escalated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And these countries, the 5 Arab countries, have exerted remarkable efforts on working and actually on decreasing gender inequalities and ensuring actually more inclusive environments. Lack of motivation was among the challenges reported by teachers. The lack of motivation on the part of the teachers, educators, on the part of learners. And this is why the teachers wanted to receive more training on and more activities that would enable them to increase their motivation, and in turn to increase the motivation of the learners. And they wanted as well to have more access to more resources that would ensure serving this purpose. One major as well, one further challenge was the adjustment that should entail not only the curriculum but also the grading system, the assessment, because in certain cases, as reported by teachers and as reported as well by many reviewed articles and reports, certain solutions were not that viable when it comes to academic integrity and carrying out exams and assessment, whether we're talking about the formative assessment or the summative assessment, such as opening the camera or using proctoring tools, because they actually, many studies found out that these would increase the pressure and anxiety of learners and would not enable them actually to ensure or to have an anxiety-reduced atmosphere. That was actually a major challenge in the 5 Arab countries. And this is why the recommendations that would be reviewed in this study have suggested the use actually of hybrid models of synchronous and asynchronous, along with involving the engagement of the learners, the peers, and the teachers in the assessment process. And they have given as well, they have shed light on the importance of parental involvement as a key actually to address the adjustments that will befall the curriculum and the assessment, and definitely the text books later on, and the materials that will be used by teachers. And what's very vital was the ongoing feedback and the constructive feedback. Methods and the strategies should be changed as per the recommendations of many of the respondents to the survey. What the teachers have raised was as well modifying the curriculum. They wanted actually to cancel lessons and to cancel lessons and to modify lessons that would enable learners to fulfill the requirements, especially if the objectives demanded focusing on experimental laboratories. Because they wanted actually to keep the hybrid mode in the aftermath of the pandemic and not to resort completely to the in-person mode or to the face-to-face mode. What also the teachers have asserted, they asserted the importance of being as well able to get more training, further training that would enable them to implement cooperative learning, to implement as well collaboration, and to increase collaboration, communication among learners and between the learners and the teachers, and to enable them as well to use the features in a more, let's say, effective manner, especially when it comes to the breakouts provided by WebEx or provided by Zoom. And as well, they asked for more training on developing and designing problem-solving activities that would increase or improve the problem-solving skills of students. They have given as well recommendations that are supposed to be taken into consideration to ensure the adjustment of the curriculum and the textbooks, along with the activities, lesson plans, and the training that should be given to teachers in order to align with the adjusted curriculum, the would to be adjusted curriculum, and the would to be adjusted curriculum related materials and resources. This is why some teachers, and based as well on the existing plethora of literature, it's very important to focus on adjustment that would cater for differentiation in assessment and in instruction, in order to cater and to meet the needs of all learners. So more differentiated strategies employing asynchronous and synchronous activities, along with the more experimental actually instruction, are highly recommended to be incorporated in the adjusted curriculum and in the materials and matters related to the curriculum adjustment. This is why many teachers have focused on the importance of having ebooks and having more platforms that would and the training given to the teachers and the students at the very beginning of the academic year, in order to convert learners to become autonomous learners, independent learners whose 21st century skills should be enhanced. And many teachers said that they'd like to learn more about the 21st century skills and receive more training to enable them to design and to develop more activities that would increase again innovation, communication, motivation, leadership, and would decrease the lack of motivation and the lack of rapport they have felt that it was there when they held their online classes. Some teachers said that they lost the very strong bonds they used to have with their students when they used to hold in-person classrooms. They asked for things to be adjusted in order to regain these strong bonds that were characterizing the face-to-face or in-person classrooms. This is why, among the recommendations, vital recommendations, having new roles that should be actually adopted by teachers. Now, teachers are being asked to become moderators, to become facilitators, to make the center again and again for the students, to ensure that the students are going to be autonomous learners, are going to be involved in the learning and teaching process, are going to be involved in the assessment as well, whether it is actually formative assessment or alternative assessment. And as well, actually, new roles indicated that teachers' well-being and students' well-being should be ensured by the training the teachers should be given in order to ensure that well-being. This is why changes in the types of assessment are very vital, and the changes in the types of assessment have demanded resorting to alternative assessment methods, to formative assessment involving the learners, the peers, the teachers, along with using alternative methods that would employ differentiated assessment, incorporating asynchronous and synchronous activities, open book, maybe exams, maybe fact sheets, maybe portfolios, maybe as well collaboration activities, collaboration group activities, tasks done done by students who are gonna receive as well training on how to do these activities and how as well to be to play a vital role in the assessment process. The pedagogical adaptations as well are among the curriculum-related matters that are supposed to be taken into consideration when the adjustment of the curricula or curriculum takes place. Teachers as well, as many of the teachers asked actually for activities that would make them more creative, and that would make the learners more creative. And they asked as well for more activities that would enable them to increase their critical thinking skills and the critical thinking skills of students, along with the problem solving skills. This is why we have noticed that the digital media literacy and the crisis communication strategies were considered to be very vital as one of the major findings of this pilot study. The preparedness of the teachers and learners has been a key finding, and that preparedness would eliminate the confusion that might take place, and would save the time, and would ensure a smoother a transition and the smoother adaptation and coping with whatever emergency in education other than the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is why as well this pilot study has yielded substantial recommendations indicating the vital role of ICT integration and the vital role of integrating many technologies. The teachers, though they were actually trained in the use of some technology, they asked for more technologies, for more integration of ICT, for more guidelines when it comes to the lesson plan, to the activities that are supposed to be incorporated, to the assessment, to the closure activities, to highlighting their needs, their new needs now when it comes to the new demands of education due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. We found out that some countries have already actually start working tremendously, and they have already ensured actually some viable solutions that would have lessened the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And these countries, as I have mentioned earlier, were United Arab Emirates and Qatar, along with the Sultanate of Oman. What has been very vital among the 5 countries was the focus on parental involvement as a vital part in the curriculum adjustment, and to help actually the children or the learners to be able to cope with the emergencies that might arise, to increase their adaptability, to increase their motivation, and to increase their productivity. Qatar, has been tremendously exerting efforts on ensuring inclusive environments, and these were reported, documented in many recent literature, definitely a quantitative literature that has investigated what has been done dating to 2020 and 2021. The whole thing is mentioned in details in the detailed report yielded by this studies. Here, in addition, to Microsoft Teams and to local platforms, and in addition to Zoom, WebEx, Blackboard, Moodle are supposed to be as well used. More technologies are highly needed. More training, related to gamification, to video games, to interesting actually YouTube, activities could have been as well implemented as part of the differentiation that would be incorporated in both instruction, material, resources, and assessment in order to address the learning losses and the learning gaps. Online, as we can see here in the Sultanate of Oman, the lockdown was was complete in March 2020. In March 2020, and but the success of online classes has been reported, and empirical research has been conducted, and it has proven the success of the online classes, and the smooth, let's say, or the ability to overcome the challenges that have been imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The training that as well is based on the training that was given to both teachers and students, and on involving the parents on what was going on. And the quick actually actions that have led to the smooth transition has been one of the key factors. In Iraq and Lebanon, the ability to encounter or to overcome these challenges have been less strong than it was in Qatar, in United Arab Emirates, and in the Sultanate of Oman. However, Iraq has exerted commendable efforts in partnership with UNICEF, UNESCO, and as well in partnership with the Ministry of Education and Directorates of Education to ensure a sort of more engagement, more equality education in emergency while encountering emergencies such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And Lebanon as well, although Lebanon suffered a lot because of August 4 blast that caused the death of around 252 people, injured 7,500, and caused major damages to many schools. This blast has aggravated the suffering and the agony of many children who lost their beloved ones, and it has made as well the ability to overcome the challenges imposed by the pandemic in a way or another, let's say, more demanding. And it's actually now we can say that Lebanon has been able to adopt the national policy and the digital education in partnership with UNESCO, and that has helped Lebanon a lot to be able to be on track when it comes to addressing the challenges that are going to be or that have been imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic and might be imposed by other emergencies in education. This is why the progresses that were made in Lebanon, namely because of the 5-year plan that has been and the national strategy on digital education that have been definitely materialized due to partnership with UNESCO, have managed to put Lebanon on an excellent track when it comes to facing such challenges. What has been common among the 5 countries were the health issues were major challenge for all the teachers and for all the students, especially because the pandemic affected the well-being of the teachers and the students. And this is why the Ministry of Education and Higher Education in the 5 countries have worked in collaboration with the Ministries of Health in these 5 countries.
Dr. Rada, just 1 minute, okay? And then
yes,
you have to wrap up.
Done. Yes, I'm done. And that actually has led to facing these challenges in a very smooth manner. And what is very vital was among the recommendations was the adjustment that should befall as well the resources and the adoption of alternative methods entailing assessment and more authentic materials, more as well effective programs by the ministries to ensure communication or stronger communication between teachers and students, and to provide the teachers and the students at the same time with the training on the use of these. In conclusion, the results actually of this pilot study have been substantial and have been significant in a way or another in eliciting and soliciting the perceptions of teachers and educators of the adjustments that would befall the curriculum and the curriculum-related matters. And these findings could be considered as a backbone for further research that would entail the entire Arab region and not being restricted to the 5 Arab countries. Thank you so much for listening, and for any related questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at my phone number given at the end of the slides or at my email. Thank you so much. Again, I reiterate my thankfulness to the commentators and to Dr. Dakmara and to the audiences and to everybody that has actually contributed to the success of this pilot study. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rada, for this comprehensive presentation, and please stop sharing your screen. Yes, okay. So during the presentation, we received a lot of questions and comments for which I'm very thankful. One question, I'll respond to it immediately about the countries. What are the criteria for these countries to have been selected? So as said at the beginning, we tried to actually develop a pilot study, so not a fully fledged study, but a pilot study to get some insight into the issues related to curriculum and curriculum related matters. So to gather information, to gather some insight. And because the Arab countries are quite diverse, we sought to select a number of countries, so a small number, and we sought to have a bulk of countries that are more experienced with digital education and learning, like the countries from the Gulf, and also countries that experience more difficulties that deal with protracted crises like Iraq and Lebanon. We are very much aware that, for instance, the North African countries have not been involved. And this is also one discussion we should have today, how to deal with the entire region, what kind of research should be put in place for the entire region so that the research outcomes could be also representative for the sake of informing policies and identifying some common trends despite the diversity. So I hope this responded to actually respond to this issue about criteria of countries. And again, it's a pilot study, it's not a fully fledged study. We received many other questions, which I will address in the open session, but we have to continue with our agenda now. And I have also invited a number of critical friends of commentators to comment on the study, to help us understand how such a study could become more relevant, more insightful and richer, and also to provide the substance that we need to understand this area of curriculum. And for instance, one of the questions that just came to my phone now is about, do we maybe need a framework for curriculum for the digital era? So, because we talk about adapting curriculum, adjusting curriculum, but probably this is not enough. Another participant said that we need to discuss whether it's just to adjust, to adapt, or to think of a different paradigm with regard to curriculum. So before I give the floor to our distinguished commentators, our critical friends, I have to apologize to Mr. Renato Perti from the International Bureau of Education, because I planned in the agenda to give him the floor first to talk about UNESCO's work in curriculum and about the IB, but I will do it now. So my apologies, Renato. And for 10 minutes, please introduce the IBE and introduce UNESCO's work in curriculum the world over. Shukran. Thank you.
Excuse me, Dagmara, I have to leave in 5 minutes, okay?
Then Dr. Jufi, if you can then start with, sorry, Renato again. We'll start then with our start then, with our critical friend. The first one is then Dr. Jufi from ABEX. Yes, Dr. Jufi.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, and Dagmara, and thank you very much indeed for Ida for the presentation. I have to Arabic. اوكي في الواقع انه يعني سعيد جدا بان نكون مكتب التربيه العربي مشاركين في تنظيم هذه الندوه، برغم ان نحن لم نكن مشاركين في اعداد الدراسه، والحقيقه الدراسه غايه في الاهميه موضوعا وايضا توجها، باعتبار ان لابد ان نعد انفسنا الى مراحل الازمات والى التعامل مع الازمات ومع الطوارئ، باعتبار ان هذه قضيه غايه في الاهميه. والشكر ايضا لمكتب التربيه الدولي، ايضا شريك هذا العمل وايضا شريك التعامل في المنطقه، باعتباره ايضا واحد من بيوت الخبره الاساسيه التي يعتد بها. في الواقع الدراسه يعني انت ذكرتي سيده دغماره حول مسوغات اختيار الدول، وهذا كان كفاية بالنسبة لي. لكن أنا كنت أتوقع بأن الدراسة سوف تركز على 3 قضايا أساسية، اللي هي قضية الكتاب وقضية التدريس وقضية البيئة المدرسية ثم التقويم، وتتحدث في ال3 الأشياء حول كيف تم التعديل، ما هو التعديل وأين تم وما كيف عملت الدول في هذه، عبارة عن أمثلة حقيقية تتعامل معها الدول. يعني كيف تم التعديل، اخترنا قطر، كيف تم التعديل في قطر، ما هي انواع التعديل اللي تمت في المنهج، في المقرر، في التدريس، في طرق التدريس، في البيداغوجيا، في البيئه التعليميه، في التقويم. نفس الكلام في عمان، نفس الكلام في العراق، نفس الكلام في لبنان. يعني اللي لاحظته انا ان الدراسه ركزت على قضايا تحديات عامه، تحديات تكنولوجيه، تحديات بيئيه، وهي حقيقيه وهي جيده، لكنها نحن لما نتكلم عن المنهج يجب ان نغوص اعمق مما سمعنا، وانا اتوقع انه ربما نرى هذا في الدراسه وليس في الملخص. اجمالا انا اؤكد مره ثانيه على ان لدينا 4 محاور لابد ان نركز عليها ولابد ان نرى العمق فيها اكبر. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Joufi. So what Dr. Al-Joufi, the Senior Advisor for Education in ABEX, commented on was this need to be specific about curriculum issues, and the studies indeed talking a lot, these pilot studies talking a lot about challenges, which is maybe a first step, but we need to go more in depth with regard to these issues about curriculum. And now I invite, before giving the floor to the other commentators, I invite Renato to introduce this work of UNESCO on curriculum and to also illuminate us with regard to the issues that pertain to curriculum. What should we look at when we talk about curriculum? One question, for instance, which was addressed is whether there is a difference between curriculum and textbooks. And of course, they are connected, but they are also different. So Renato, the floor is yours for 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my dear friend Damara. Really congratulate you for this wonderful opportunity to rethink about curriculum. Also to ABEX and colleagues from the different countries and from the different organizations. We are very happy from IB, International Bureau of Education, to participate in this conversation about curriculum, because we can agree, all of us, that we are in a turning point in our history, in mankind history. I mean, we are in a turning point where we have to take the most crucial decisions about the future of our societies and the well-being and the development of the societies. And crucially, curriculum is there. I mean, because it's about educating the new generations. So we have to go deeper into this, and I find that this is a wonderful opportunity to deepen our analysis, to share our concerns, to share our ideas, and to move forward agendas. So regarding IB, I will just go quickly, well, the presentation will be there for you to, let me see if it is, you will see that IB, now we have the renewed mandate of IB. That means that IB, International Bureau of Education with UNESCO, is the institute that is specialized on curriculum, learning, and related issues. And we have 3 main areas of work, or 3 main issues regarding our mandate. First, the idea of synergizing and consolidating the work of UNESCO in curriculum, fostering a forward-looking and transformative vision of curriculum. That means that we believe and we work with countries and member states in the transformation of curriculum. And in the transformation of curriculum with an open-minded. I mean, this idea that curriculum is not something imposed, curriculum is a local construction. As Tamara very well knows, because she's a very well-recognized international expert on curriculum, curriculum needs to have a global understanding for local contextualization. So I have that idea of an indigenous curriculum means having a curriculum that is global, but have also the capacity to really speak to the local context and to the realities. The second element is to build a knowledge base on curriculum, trying to share, as our friend from Gada, Professor Gada has mentioned, Dr. Gada has mentioned, cutting-edge research and studies within comparative approaches. I mean, the international comparative approach, not to modelize, not to prescribe, not to impose, but to share. And also, one of the key functions of UNESCO that is developing standard setting norms and instruments in curriculum that can serve to guide and support member states, curriculum resource path, curriculum framework, Damara mentions curriculum frameworks, curriculums, resource packs, discussion documents, different knowledge products, etc. Now, the issue here is that Now we have the new midterm strategy of IB 2020-2025, and then this it has to say 22-25. Regarding the IB new strategy, we are putting the emphasis in the idea that curriculum is in the middle of this, it's a connector, connects the educational policies with the pedagogical practice. We have to understand the role of curriculum in society and in education. Curriculum is a driver of quality education. It's an instrument for policy, and also it's a driver for pedagogical practices. So the IB intervention focus will be mainly focused on curriculum frameworks, on curriculum guidance, this standard setting normative instrument that we mentioned, operational framework, how you translate the curriculum framework into action, into effective classroom practices, and also evaluation and regulation frameworks. That implies that IB work is mostly focused on capacity development, on strengthening the institutional and curriculum capacity of countries, through technical assistance and training. Laboratory of ideas mean trying to translate research findings into effective practices and effective guidance for practitioners, and also advocacy and outreach on making the case for the transformation of curriculum. Now, here you have the scope of IB work today, and hopefully with Tamara and our friends from ABEX, we will try to outreach better the Arab states and support their ideas and their proposals. But IB is in a process of reconnecting with many countries worldwide, and you have here a quite global picture of what we are doing in different regions in Asia and Africa and Latin America, and hopefully we are going to extend this. Now, here is what are the ongoing initiatives of IB. Here we have the master and diploma programs in curriculum and learning. We have in Africa, in Tanzania, we have in the Arab region in Hamdan bin Mohammed University in Dubai, that is an Arab regional master for all the region. In Europe and in Latin America, we support countries in curriculum transformation processes. We have this initiative that is very much related to what Namara has mentioned, hybrid education, learning and assessment, that is a HELA initiative, that is IB idea of supporting countries moving from in-person education to an integration and complementarity between in-person and distance education. We also have the issues about documentation and archives, and we work on issues relating to global education, inclusive education, and neuroscience. Now, I will try to go more so we can, here is a list of different global dialogues that we have participated in during this year. But I would like to, here you have the, Mara mentioned one of the publications of IB. The most recent one is about learning to build back vector future for education. It's available in PDF online, and it's a systematization of lessons learned from education innovation during the COVID-19 pandemic. Was co-edited with Fernando Reimers from the Harvard School of Education. And really what this study do is to highlight the main lessons we are learning from the pandemic and how we can move forward in terms of educational and transformative agendas in curriculum. Here you have a series of publications of IB that you can go through it, and we can give also the links. But we like to mention this point here that is about how we understand curriculum today, that is much related to what Professor Damara, Professor Gada has mentioned. We have identified that IB 6 main points today about discussion on curriculum. First, that curriculum reflects societal imaginaries. Curriculum is a reflection of what society wants to develop. Then we have this idea of a holistic and systemic vision of curriculum. Holistic means the idea of the comprehensive information of the person, and systemic, that curriculum connects the different pieces of the system, the pedagogical part, the school part, the supervisor part, the educational policy component. Also the idea that curriculum is a driver of quality education. Curriculum connects the knowledge pieces and the how, connects the for what and the how to educate, learn, and assess. Curriculum have different interconnected dimensions. Not only we have to talk about the prescripted curriculum or the implemented curriculum, but also we have to talk about the hidden curriculum, the experienced curriculum by learners, the mediated curriculum, the negotiated curriculum. Curriculum is much more ample and much more diverse than talking only about prescription and implementation. And also this idea of teachers as classroom policymakers. Finally, at the end of the day, the most important agent in the educational system at the classroom level is the teachers. So having said that, what we have been developing at IB is a sort of mapping of these issues in terms of these 6 points that we have mentioned. I mean, curriculum related to societal imaginaries, recognizing that when we discuss curriculum, we are discussing ideological and programmatic elements. This idea of curriculum contributing to the comprehensive formation of the person through the diversification of learning experiences relating to the aspiration, motivation, interest, context of each learner. This idea that we have mentioned about curriculum as a driver of quality education, and trying to understand that policy about curriculum doesn't make sense, but curriculum about policies doesn't have sustainability. Then we have this idea that curriculum connects, the idea of curriculum as connecting the for what, the how, the when, and where to educate, learn, and assess, to ensure that every learner matters equally. This idea of interconnected dimension of curriculum. We have the prescriptive curriculum, we have the implemented curriculum, we have the negotiated curriculum. The curriculum is a negotiation process taking place at every labor of the system. We have the perceived curriculum, how teachers perceive the curriculum. We have the experience curriculum, how learners experience the curriculum. We have the achieved curriculum, what we got in terms of learning outcomes and competencies. And also we have the hidden curriculum, what is not being said, but is essential in the school mindset, in the school practices, and the forgotten curriculum, the curriculum never gets into the classroom. So this idea is also about curriculum empowering the idea that curriculum have to be sustained, and that Professor Gada has mentioned, on educators as classroom policymakers, as co-developers. We believe at IB, and Damara knows that because she was one of the advocates of this idea, that curriculum is not implemented, curriculum is co-developed among the different levels and layers of the system. So now, this, just to start to wrap up, we have a golden opportunity today, our friends, to rethink curriculum, rethrough a transformative, futuristic, forward-looking, progressive lens. And that implies that IB has developed a paper that you produce a paper that is called 10 Clues for Rethinking Curriculum. That is, we propose 10 clues to rethink curriculum in the post-pandemic era. And this implies the clue number 1 is understanding the younger generation, combating what happened that I don't know why this is happening. Yeah, okay, let's see. Okay. Here, clue number 1 is understanding the younger generations, deepening local, combating factors related to vulnerability, understanding the relation between schools and communities. But I think that it's going the reinforcing understanding between school and community, deepening local education, focusing on the focus of the person, ensuring that we have a hybrid education learning mode, that we have, we put the emphasis on the teachers and the links between teachers, families, and communities, and putting the emphasis on the idea that values can be synergized and working together, freedom, justice, inclusion, cohesion. So we have this framework of 10 clues that is an opportunity for countries to rethink curriculum based on a comprehensive understanding. And finally, I'd like to mention what Damara asked us to comment on, and this very good and this very comprehensive study that Professor Gada and Damara has presented. Let me share with you 8 discussion points on the study, just to along the line of Professor Abulrasham in terms of what we can discuss about the study. First one, I like to mention that the study has this very rich idea of triangulation of methodologies, of perspectives and evidence. I mean, the study is based on the triangulation of different ways of understanding the issue, not only from a methodological side, using interviews, surveys, etc., but also from the different perspectives and the different evidence. Triangulation is key for understanding issues today. So I think that the study provides some basis for a comprehensive understanding of how we can address curriculum adjustment in the Arab region in the post-pandemic era. The second one is that during the pandemic, and this study will reflect that, education has emerged as a worldwide laboratory of experimentation. I mean, all over the world, people are countries, educators, educational system, policy makers, curriculum developers are experimenting, are looking for new ways of understanding education, for new ways of developing education, for new ways of delivering education. So our world is a laboratory today, a laboratory of experimentation across diverse regions, across diverse contexts and issues. The third element that the study provokes us is that to revisit the curriculum at large. It's not about one adjustment of the curriculum. It's not about one piece that you choose to change. It's about the overall rationale of the curriculum. And that implies going deeper into the key ideas informing the curriculum, the core concepts, the essential content, and connecting the pieces. How curriculum can connect the policies with the pedagogical practice, how curriculum can connect the educational contents with the teaching, learning, and assessment processes, how the curriculum can connect to the learner, how the curriculum can connect to the teachers. So that implies revisiting the curriculum at large. The fourth point is about rethinking the roles, the profiles, the roles, and the competencies of learners and teachers together. It's not about the competencies of teachers or learners, it's about thinking them together. For example, the study was very clear, it's very clear on highlighting the need to work on digital competencies, but on digital pedagogical competencies. But that is not only about learners or teachers, it's about themselves. And it's also about the relationship among them. So we have to rethink the profile of teachers we need, the role of teachers, the competence of teachers, but also the learners as going hand in hand. Point number 5 is that we are going to a world that is going to have a hybridization of education. Education is no longer to be only online, or it's not going to be only distance education. It's going to be a complementarity. It's going to be something that combines in-person and distance education. But it's not only about delivery of education. Hybridization is about approaches, it's about settings, it's about provisions, it's about instructional time. How you are going to allocate instructional time to personalize education and to provide collective learning settings. How you're going to diversify pedagogical strategies. How you're going to diversify, as Professor Gada has mentioned, assessment and going through a more comprehensive vision of assessment as essentially learning. Number 6 is about strengthening the understanding of the student as a person. What the pandemic has revealed us, the importance to understand each person as each learner is unique. Every learner is special. Every learner is unique. And UNESCO understanding of inclusive education is not that some learners are special, all learners are unique. And one thing that we have recaptured and re-strengthened in the pandemic is the recuperation of the student as a person. So comes all the discussion about the social and emotional dimensions and the cognitive dimension. And it's a mistake to separate them. All cognitions implies social emotional learning, and social emotional competence imply cognitions. They have to be going hand in hand. The two final comments, the multidimensionality, vulnerability. The pandemic has shown us that we are very vulnerable. We are very vulnerable in terms of social, of culture, of economic, of educational, of curriculum vulnerability, pedagogical vulnerability. So we have to make the case, and the study make it very clearly, for a comprehensive social, culture, and educational preparedness. It's time to recuperate and to reinvigorate the idea that education is an economic policy, it's a social policy, it's a culture policy, it's a community policy, it's a citizenship policy. And finally, a technology that's education-oriented. It's not about technology discussion today, it's about education, using technology as a driver for enhancing learning opportunities and process and outcomes. So the role of the government in ensuring access, and the study mentioned that, access to connectivity, access to platforms, access to resources. That is critical, it's crucial, but also trying to understand that technology about appropriation by learners and teachers. Technology is a tool, and we have to overcome this idea that we have one technology. No, it's about the combination of technology. Many countries in different regions have combined what is called all and new technologies. It's not about only internet connection, it's also about using other technologies, more traditional ones that can be also strengthened to enhance learning opportunities and learners' diversity. So by the end of the day, I say that this study, that Mara and Professor Gada and our friends, is food for thinking, but also food for action. So I think that we have to continue deepening this analysis, because we have a golden opportunity today to rethink curriculum in a transformative lens through a comparative perspective. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Shukran, dear Renato, for also presenting, in addition to the issues of curriculum and the global perspective of UNESCO and the IBE, to have also delved into a critique of this study, and also to have opened up some avenues, thinking avenues, for the future, because I just corresponded with one of our participants, and I said, we all have to learn. I mean, curriculum is very complex anyway, but now the pandemic made it even more complex, if I may say so, because a lot is open, a lot is still, as you, Renato, mentioned, something people experiment, they try different solutions. One participant said, but if we reduce, for instance, the volume of knowledge, the subjects and so on, is this the way to go? You know, is this a solution? Because it may look like a good solution, but do we know that this helps learners to learn? And as Renato said, the time for learning is still there, because instructional time is one essential issues, and for some things to be learned, especially foundational skills, we need a certain amount of time. We cannot compress phases, you know, we cannot run quicker than nature is actually helping us to learn. So thank you very much, Renato, for also these different ideas for the future research, because again, it's a vast area to be explored. We don't have all the answers, or we don't have all the good answers yet. And it's clear that we have to look at the curriculum and look at learning from this comprehensive perspective. That is not easy to be considered, especially when we are in an emergency, when we have to find quick solutions and we have to adjust. Yeah, we have to use these ugly words to adjust, but we have to be more proactive. And now maybe the pandemic prepared us also better to look at all these issues in a different and more proactive way. I will now give the floor to another critical friend from a country that was not part of the study, from Bahrain. So Mrs. Nawal Ibrahim Al-Khater, Undersecretary for Policy, Strategies and Performance from Bahrain. Please share with us your ideas about the issues of curriculum adjustment, but also the study and ideas for future research that could bring about more learning, more insight into these very complicated issues. Thank you. Dr. Nawal, the floor is yours.
شكرا دكتور كمارا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، ومساء الخير جميعا عليكم. معكم نوال إبراهيم الخاطر من مملكة البحرين. طبعا يسرني أن أكون معكم اليوم في هذه الندوة عبر الإنترنت. بداية أشكر معهد اليونسكو بيروت، وبالأخص طبعا بالشكر الدكتورة دكمارا، وأيضا مكتب التربية الدولي لليونسكو، وأيضا مكتب التربية العربي لدول الخليج. بداية لابد أن نشكر الدكتورة قادة عواضة على الجهد اللي قامت به في إعداد الدراسة تعديل المناهج فيما بعد جائحة كوفيد-19. وقد ركزت الدراسة على أمور كثيرة ورصدت كثير من التحديات وعرضت نتائج وتوصيات. ويمكن أن أتفق مع الدكتور عبد السلام في أهمية أن احنا ندخل أحيانا في بعض التفاصيل يمكن تكون أيضا موجودة في الدراسة التفصيلية وما تم عرضها اليوم. إذا نظرنا إلى الموضوع نفسه وعنوانه، فطبعا مثل ما استفسر بعض الحضور ماذا نقصد بالمنهج، ومثل ما أكد سيد ريناتو طبعا على مفهوم المنهج، وأكدت أيضا عليه الدكتورة دكمارا أن المنهج يعني هو أمر معقد لا يقتصر فقط على كتب دراسية مثل ما يظن البعض، وإنما هو يعني كل ما نقوم به ليكون للطالب مجموعة من الخبرات التي تساعده للوصول إلى أفضل ما يمكنه من قدرات للنمو الشامل والمتكامل. طبعا الدراسة أيضا رصدت كوفيد-19، ويمكن طبعا جائحة كوفيد-19 كل ما قامت به أنه سرعت أمور كثيرة كان من المهم أن تتم من سنوات طويلة. يعني كتربويين الكل يناقش كثير من الأمور يمكن لم يعني يكون لها كلها الاهتمام، بالذات دمج التقنية في التعليم مثلما ما تم الآن مع جائحة كوفيد-19. طبعا احنا من سنوات طويلة واحنا نتكلم عن أهمية الأدوار واختلافها، فالطالب الآن في القرن ال21 ليس فقط هو شخص يحفظ المعلومات، وإنما لابد أن نمكنه من تطبيق المعرفة في مواقف حقيقية نساعده على إنتاج المعرفة، يكون هو منتج للمعرفة، وأيضاً كيفية تطوير مهاراته اللي يكون مهيئ لسوق العمل. هذا هو الهدف الأساسي من جميع العمليات التي تتم. كنا نتكلم كثيرا عن تفريد التعليم. أرى الآن مع وجود التكنولوجيا أيضاً هناك فرصة كبيرة لوجود هذا التفريد. المعلم ودوره في هاي المرحلة، يعني دور المعلم أنه يوفر الإرشاد والدعم لعملية التعليم، يكون منسق للنقاشات اللي تتم بين الطلبة، يعطيهم التوجيه. لم يعد المعلم أو يكون دوره هو مصدر للمعرفة. من المهم جدا أن المعلم أيضا ينوع في طرائق التعليم والتعلم، ونرى الآن أيضا في أثناء الجائحة كيف أن المعلمين اجتهدوا في أن يكون عندهم طرائق يعني كبيرة في هذا المجال. التعلم ليس فقط محصور بأسوار المدرسة، وليس تعلم نظامي فقط. مجال التعلم كبير في التعلم الغير نظامي informal learning. فيعني دراسة صراحة تعرضت لأمور كثيرة وركزت على دور التكنولوجيا في العملية التعليمية، وكيف انتقل العالم بعد إغلاق المدارس إلى التعلم عن بعد. وذكر كثير من القضايا المهمة يمكن تكون ما زالت تحديات من كثير من الدول، منها طبعا مسألة التقويم التكويني. يمكن مملكة البحرين مثل ما ذكرت دكتورة أنها هي لم تكن من ضمن الدول التي دخلت في هذه الدراسة. يمكن بيكون لي فرصة بسيطة أن نستعرض تجربة مملكة البحرين بشكل سريع. طبعا يمكن احنا تجربتنا كانت مميزة، ان احنا بدأنا من 2005 بمشروع وطني اسمه مشروع جلالة الملك حمد لمدارس المستقبل، وهو يعني مشروع يركز على دمج التقنية في التعليم. ويمكن في أول 5 سنوات احنا ركزنا على البنية التحتية وتهيئة المدارس، فيمكن يكون تطوير على مستوى المدرسة. بعد ذلك انتقلنا إلى مرحلة تطويرية كان فيه الكثير من البحث والتطوير، R&D Research and Development. وتحولنا بعد ذلك في 5 سنوات درسنا كثير من الأمور يعني خلتنا ننتقل إلى مرحلة أطلقنا عليها التمكين الرقمي في التعليم. كان الهدف الأساسي هو تمكين الأفراد، فلله الحمد يمكن هاي كلها كان قبل جائحة كوفيد-19. هذه سهل لمملكة البحرين أن هي يكون عندها الكثير من الأمور اللي ساعدتنا أثناء الجائحة. فإحنا عندنا نظام إدارة تعلم وجد ليكون يعني بيئة تعلم وتواصل. ركزنا أيضاً في مرحلة سابقة على المحتوى التعليمي الرقمي، ودربنا الطالب والمعلم أنهم يكونوا منتجين للمعرفة من خلال توفير وتدريب المعلمين على العديد من الأدوات الرقمية. وأيضاً شجعنا مبادرة الموارد التعليمية المفتوحة، بحيث أن المعلم يتشارك مع زملائه، وأيضاً الطلبة ينتجون معرفة برخص مفتوحة. واستخدمنا طبعاً الرخصة المفتوحة اللي هي الكريتيف كومنز. ركزنا أيضاً على الإرشاد التقني، وكان من المهم تدريب المعلم على كيفية دمج التقنية في التعليم. وأيضاً استفردنا بمشروع خاص فينا اللي هو الاستعمال الآمن للتكنولوجيا، لأن كنا أطلقنا الطلبة أنهم يكونون موجودين على الإنترنت، فكان مهم أن الطالب يكون قادر على يعني كيفية استخدام التكنولوجيا بشكل مهم. اللي يميز التجربة ونرى أهميتها على أساس أنه يكون في تطوير للمناهج، مهم أن يكون في تكامل الأدوار سواء من القيادة العليا في أي دولة. فإحنا الحمد لله في مملكة البحرين لدينا قيادة حكيمة ساهمت في كثير من الأمور اللي يعني تم إصدار قرارات في وقتها، وساهمت في أن التعليم يستمر، لم يتوقف التعليم. ولكن أيضاً كانت هناك مجموعة من التحديات ساعدها أن يكون عندنا قيادة مدرسية من المدراء المدارس، وأيضاً كان دور المعلم والطالب ولي أمره دور مهم. فتكاتف وتكامل الأدوار كانت من العناصر المهمة. أيضاً المجتمع كان له دور كبير. في مملكة البحرين أطلقت حملة اسمها حملة فينا خير، وتم تجميع مبالغ وتم استفادة منها في توفير أيضاً أجهزة للطلبة. تم توفير 10,000 جهاز للطلبة المحتاجين لهذه الأجهزة. فلله الحمد يعني مملكة البحرين ننظر إلى عملية التعلم أن هي بيئة تعلم متكاملة، يعني لابد أن تتكاتف فيه كل الأمور يمكن اللي تم ذكرها في الدراسة اليوم. فإحنا أعطينا فرص كثيرة للطلبة، منها التعلم المتزامن، أدخلنا اللي هو الطلبة في فصول افتراضية، وكان هاي من القضية المهمة أن احنا لا يمكن أن يقف التعليم، فلا بد أن تكون هناك بيئة تعلم. فكانت في بيئة تعلم بس افتراضية من خلال مايكروسوفت تيمز. وأيضا لأن لدينا نظام إدارة تعلم، نظام اللي هو إديونت بورتال، كان من الممكن للطالب يقوم بعملية التعلم والتواصل من خلال هذه البيئة. فوجود نظام إدارة التعلم كان من القضايا المهمة اللي الطلبة استطاعوا أنهم يشوفون، يعني يكونوا قادرين على رؤية الدروس، المحتوى التعليمي الرقمي، وأيضا يكون في كثير من الأدوات المتوفرة. بالإضافة أن احنا شجعنا التعلم الذاتي، وهن اللي نتكلم عنه في المنهج، أن التعلم ليس فقط تعلم رسمي، وإنما ممكن الطالب يتعلم بنفسه. فوفرنا المحتوى التعليمي الرقمي لمجموعة طبعا جميع الطلبة وجميع قدراتهم وامكاناتهم، حتى الطلبة من ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة كان لهم أيضا نصيب من هذا المحتوى، وأيضا قنوات تعليمية ودروس موجودة على اليوتيوب. فمن المهم جدا أن يكون هناك وصول لجميع الطلبة بجميع احتياجاتهم. من المهم أيضا أن هناك تكون فرص تعلم مختلفة حسب الطالب وقدراته. فحتى في التجربة يمكن الفترة الأخيرة احنا انتقلنا إلى التعلم الهجين، بعد الحمد لله الظروف أصبحت أفضل في المنطقة، وأصبح الطالب يحضر في المدارس بعد فتحها مرة أخرى. تركنا أيضا الخيار للطالب وولي الأمر أنه يختار للحضور بالمدرسة بالكامل أو يحضر حضور جزئي، لكن فرص التعلم متوفرة سواء الطالب كان في المدرسة أو كان موجود أونلاين. فطبقنا التعلم الهجين، وأصبح الطالب يحضر أحيانا في المدرسة ويحضر مرات أخرى طبعاً من البيت، سواء من البوابة التعليمية أو من خلال الفصول الافتراضية أو من خلال المحتوى التعليمي الرقمي. فأنا أكد وأشيد صراحة على الدراسة اللي تمت، وأتمنى أن يكون في أيضاً مزيد من الدراسات في المرحلة القادمة، على أساس أن احنا مثل ما قلنا المنهج من القضايا الشائكة وتشمل أمور كثيرة، ويمكن قضية التقويم أيضاً وتقييم أداء الطالب. يمكن عملية التعلم تكون أسهل أونلاين، لكن لما يكون عملية التقويم فيمكن دكتورة كمال ذكرتي أن كان عندكم ندوة سابقة عن التقويم التكويني formative assessment. هاي من القضايا أيضا المهمة الآن يمكن في هاي المرحلة، واللي تشجع أيضا الطلبة على عملية التعلم، وأن يكون عندنا القياس أو التقييم للتعلم. We are seeking for more assessment as learning. فنشكر لكم جميعا إتاحة هذه الفرصة، وإحنا موجودين معكم لأي استفسارات في فترة النقاش. شكرا دكتورة كمال.
Shukran, Mrs. Nawal Al-Khater from Bahrain for these additional suggestions, and also for presenting some of the experiences that Bahrain could contribute with to such a regional study on how to deal with new ways of actually designing curriculum and facilitating learning for students in difficult times, and the role of preparedness, of timely preparedness for the success of these actions. So shukran once more. And now, last but not least, our other critical friend from the Sultanate of Oman. I hope Dr. Abdullah Ambusaidi is with us. Yes. Hello, can you hear us? Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam.
How is everything? Thank you.
Very good, thank you, and very happy to see you with us.
My pleasure to be. Let me شكرا جزيلا في على تنظيم هذه أو هذا التعاون مع الإخوة في مكتب التربية العربي وأيضا مكتب التربية الدولي. حقيقة موضوع تأثير جائحة كورونا التعليم من الموضوعات الجدا مهمة، والتي طبعا يفترض يتم عمل لها كثير من الدراسات والبحوث لعدة أسباب، لكن أهمها هو الاستفادة من الدروس المتعلمة من هذه الجائحة للمستقبل، لأن العالم اليوم ليس بمنع عن كثير من الجوائح، سواء كانت هذه الجوائح كارثية مرتبطة بالتغير المناخي أو الأزمات الصحية جائحة كورونا. الدول التي دراسة التي بها الدكتور مارا تاريخ هي دراسة جدا مهمة وضرورية، وإحنا في دول مجلس التعاون في الغالب يعني الحمد لله لدينا كثير من اللقاءات التي نجريها مع بعضنا فيما يتعلق بخبراتنا حول كيف تعاملنا مع الجائحة. لكن على المستوى العربي يمكن هذه إحدى الدراسات الجيدة واللقاءات التي أيضا تثري جميع الحاضرين بحيث أن نستفيد من بعضنا البعض. طبعا الدراسة كما ذكرت دراسة مهمة ودراسة غطت الكثير من الجوانب، والتي يعني أتوقع أن لها فيها تفصيلات كثيرة غير الذي عرض على الشرائح في هذا اللقاء. لكن أنا دائما أقول أنه الدروس المستفادة كثيرة، ومن الصعوبة بمكان تغطيتها في دراسة واحدة، وعلى هذا الأساس أعتقد أنه الدراسة بحاجة إلى أن يعني قد تتناول جوانب تفصيلية نوعا ما لها علاقة ب ليس فقط المنهج بمفهومه التقليدي اللي هو الكتاب وأساليب التدريس والبيئة التعلم الافتراضية التي كانت موجودة في أثناء التدريس، ولكن أيضا الجوانب المرتبطة بدافعية الطلاب نحو التعلم، إلى أي مدى أيضا كان هناك يعني دافعية لدى الطلاب في أثناء الجائحة، وخاصة نحن نقدم لهم العملية التعليمية من خلال بيئة افتراضية وليست بيئة يعني تفاعلية مباشرة بين المعلم والطالب. أيضا يمكن نحن محتاجين الدراسة أو دراسات أيضا مرتبطة بموضوع السكيلز اللي يفترض أن المعلمين اليوم يمتلكوها في التعامل مع التعليم الإلكتروني والتعلم عن بعد، وأيضا في التعامل مع المناهج الحديثة المبنية على هذا النوع من التعليم. احنا يعني محتاجين الى ان فعلا معلمينا وهم قادرين على ذلك ليسوا فقط هم متلقين المحتوى يعكسون الطلاب، وانما هم ايضا منتجين للمحتوى الالكتروني. طبعا هناك كثير من البرامج، واحنا خبرتنا في السلطنه الحمد لله المعلمين مع التدريب اللي نعتقد انه يعني حقق المستوى الادنى من المطلوب، ولكنه لا ندعي ان نحن وصلنا الى تدريب كامل. أعتقد المعلمين قدروا واستطاعوا أنه أيضا يوجدوا طرق وحلول مختلفة لتقديم العملية التعليمية وتقديم المنهج بطريقة يعني مبتكرة. هناك برامج موجودة في الأوبن ريسورسز ممكن المعلمين يستخدموها في تقديم هذا المحتوى. فيمكن الدراسة في المستقبل أو مثل هذه الدراسات تتناول قضايا شوية يعني عميقة أكثر بفهم حقيقة ما يحدث من تفاعلات في البيئة الافتراضية مقارنة بما يحدث في التفاعلات في البيئة المباشرة التي تكون بين المعلم والطالب. سلطنة عمان طبعا قطعت شوط كبير الحمد لله في هذا الجانب، ولديها خبرة لا بأس بها في تقديم التعلم عن بعد والتعلم الإلكتروني، وأنا كنت أتمنى أيضا أن الدراسة تعرج على تفاصيل أكثر في هذا الجانب إذا لم تكن هناك تفاصيل. طبعا التقرير اللي وصلني كان في شيء مقتطف بالنسبة لعمان، وكان تركيز بشكل عام على الأونلاين، لكن عندما ندخل على الأونلاين هناك جوانب كثيرة مرتبطة. المناهج طبعا بمفهوم الشامل تشمل حتى أساليب التقويم، وفعلا يمكن التقويم محتاجينه خاصة فيما يتعلق بالتحول من الورقة والقلم إلى التقويم الإلكتروني. والتقويم الإلكتروني له اليوم شروطه وله أيضا ضوابطه بحيث فعلا يحقق المبتغى منه. لأنه يعني كثير من الممارسات الخاطئة في التقويم الإلكتروني هي سبب أو تؤدي إلى عدم يعني فهم حقيقة ما يمتلكه الطالب من مهارات وما يمتلكه من قدرات. يعني هذا ما حبيت أنا، لا أريد الإطالة عليكم في هذا الجانب، ولكن أعتقد الدراسة جدا مهمة وضرورية، ونتمنى أيضا أن يكون في دراسات مقارنات بدول عالمية ونشوف كيف إحنا وين إحنا بالنسبة لتعليم أو التعلم أثناء الجائحة، وأيضا كيف مناهجنا جالسة تقدم ومحتوى المناهج كيف يقدم في ظل هذه الجائحة. وأتمنى لهذا اللقاء كل التوفيق إن شاء الله، ولنا لقاءات قادمة بإذن الله. شكرا جزيلا مارا، والشكر موصول لجميع المستمعين.
Shukran, Dr. Abu Saidi. Thank you very much for these additional ideas. One, just to quickly summarize, is this important issue that whenever we look at the curriculum, we should not look at it from a narrow point of view, but we should look at the curriculum from a broader perspective. And this is, of course, a challenge for whatever study. And maybe we were also too ambitious with this first study to look into different issues. And that's why maybe we focused a lot on challenges instead of really going in depth about curriculum solutions. But in the future, for the big study for the region, we have to take this advice into account. And thank you again very much. And then also, as you rightly said, maybe it's about different studies, you know, a series of studies on different topics that could complement one another, so that we don't exhaust, or we don't have the ambition to exhaust in one study whatever we can say about curriculum, but we go more in depth through a series of studies. And I think this would be a good recommendation for our future work. So thank you all the commentators very much. Before I give you the floor to each of you for some final comments, I would like to go back to the questions and comments of our participants, and I would like to summarize. And since we don't have so much time left, I would just suggest, if you agree, to maybe extend this webinar for 15 minutes so that we can go a little bit longer than expected. And I will try to summarize the questions, the comments, and then each of you will be given 2 minutes to just go back with your final comments before we wrap up. Because we will also take these questions for the report, and we'll try to answer some of these questions and to go more in depth for the next steps next year with this research that could continue for the Arab region altogether. So just give me 1 second to open my phone and to then summarize our participants' contributions. For instance, there is a need, as I said, to look into curriculum development from a new kind of perspective with a different mindset, and maybe there is a need to develop special frameworks for curriculum that are looking into digital learning, that are closely related to digital learning, so that we don't just adjust or we do here and there some changes, but we look at the curriculum into different modalities and from a broad mindset that is also looking into the realities of today's education and today's challenges with technology and all what we know. So because deleting some subjects or reducing the time or reducing the task may be solutions that are working for now, but definitely they cannot be recommended as solutions that have a future. And we need still to develop skills. Learners need knowledge. We cannot just compress everything because we don't have time. We need to find the right time and the right modalities for learners to be equipped with the skills and the competencies that are needed in today's world. Then another recommendation was about this continuity between what we learned now in the pandemic period and what we want to change, to modernize, so to say, and then the tendency that can be seen sometimes in school when they go back to in-person teaching and learning, that things go back to the old kind of routines, or the old, how can we deal with this tension between trying to modernize, to change in a very, let's say, different mindset, and our pressure coming from routines and for long traditions in teaching and learning. Then another question was about this situation about the competencies of teachers and of learners that Renato also addressed, how to actually make it possible that a change, a profound change in curricula can deal with this compatibility between the teacher and the student competencies. What about foundational skills? If we deal in this world with so many challenges, how can we orientate especially the development of foundational skills, such as Arabic language? You know, what should change? Because still we need a lot of time, we need a lot of also memorization, we need some skills that can be developed only through repetition, through memorization, not just through online, let's say, teaching and learning or project work or all these nice activities that can be done with technology, but how do we deal with these foundational skills? Then how the studies, this is a very important question, how the studies could actually inform policies. How can they actually give good orientation to education policies, based on what criteria, so that countries can really take advice? And of course, the question is also, what kind of changes? Is one size fits all the good way to go, especially when a region like the Arab region is so diverse? So if the studies would make some recommendations, how can we also customize? How can we look into different ways of customizing curriculum solutions and solutions for learning in the digital era? Then, of course, there was this tension that also Dr. Abu Saidi mentioned about the narrow concept of curriculum and the broader, larger concept of curriculum that Renato also explained very well. And here, I think we have to be also quite daring in tackling the complexity of curriculum from all its angles, because solutions, again, maybe they need to be ad hoc sometimes, but the ad hoc solutions cannot bring about wise solutions for the future. And then finally, this issue about countries that are in need of more support, like where a lot of students are in need of support. How can we help these countries? How can such studies provide the backdrop against which we can provide more support to countries where infrastructure is needed, where more support for vulnerable students is needed, and so on? So because sometimes indeed we tend to talk like everybody's on the same page, or everybody is dealing with the same problems, but we don't forget, we don't have to forget that countries are different and they experience different challenges, and even developed countries, they have also their share of vulnerable students that we need to take into account. So thank you very much also to our dear participants for their questions and comments. There are many more, but I would say we stop here and we give the floor to our guest speakers. And we start with Dr. Wada, of course, the star of our today's webinar. So for 2 minutes, Dr. Wada, some concluding remarks.
Thank you so much, dear Dr. Dakmara, dear Dr. Nawal, dear Dr. Aljoufi, dear as well Mr. Renato, and dear Dr. Abdullah, and the participants for the valuable feedback, for the wonderful actually input. And again, as Dr. Dakmara has said, this is a pilot study. We need actually to conduct further research to involve the entire Arab region. And as Mr. Renato mentioned during his wonderful, very rich presentation, the curriculum process or the curriculum adjustment is like a very complex process and entails actually a lot of elements and entails as well a lot of requirements to be fulfilled, and it takes like time. And we need actually to always remember that what we have been able to come up with will serve as a backbone to move further. It's just a pilot study, and we will definitely take full advantage and see of all the comments that have been given, especially by the commentators and by Dr. Dakmara and by the participants, to enhance and to conduct further study that would address your needs and your as well will be enabling us to address your questions in a more thorough and comprehensive way. The revised study, we are still revising the study. It's very, very rich, as Mr. Renato and the commentators mentioned. It's very detailed. Though it's very detailed, we need to conduct further research. And as Dr. Dakmara said, this is one study in a series of studies that would serve the purpose. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gada. And again, I think what we gathered from this discussion today is this wonderful idea to develop a series of studies that can go in depth, maybe more focused and diverse from a topical point of view, but that could complement one another. And thank you very much, Dr. Ada, for your efforts, because it's not been easy to carry out the research over summertime. One participant asked again about the methodology, and it is said in the executive summary that I shared and also in your presentation. It's been about literature review, desk review, but also interviewing focal points in different countries from the ministry and from agencies that deal with these issues. Then it was a questionnaire sent via WhatsApp to teachers and other face-to-face interactions where this was possible, for instance, in the home country of Dr. Ada, which is Lebanon. So thank you very much again. And I'll give now the floor to Renato for his wrapping up ideas and suggestions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tamara. You made a wonderful coordination and facilitation of the webinar. Really appreciate it. And building up what Professor Gada has nicely mentioned, we will say that here there is a need for a renewed perspective on curriculum, for a renewed thinking on curriculum. And countries will have the choice to move towards hybrid modes of education. That doesn't mean distance education. Hybrid modes means the combination and the complementarity and the synergies between in-person and distance education to enhance learning, to support learners, all learners. In that regard, IB has an initiative that is called HELA, that is Hybrid Education Learning and Assessment that we have mentioned, that we are happy to collaborate with you in working in towards hybrid modes of education with UNESCO Beirut, with ABEX and other partners in the region. The second idea that I like to mention, building on what Namara has mentioned and Professor Gada, is this idea that curriculum have to find the good wise equilibrium between core concept, key ideas, essential content. I mean, how you find that equilibrium, that combination, that's key. And also this tension that Tamara mentioned, either we go back or move forward. If we have the tendency to move back and to say we dream about the pre-pandemic world, it's not over, it's over. It's not coming back. And if we have the tendency to go back to the pre-pandemic world, inequalities and vulnerabilities are going to increase. Because people are different, teachers are different, learners are different, society is different, communities are different, families are different. So that tension, we have to find out a way to work out that. Also this idea about competencies that Tamara mentioned very clearly, competencies of learners and teachers together. And that implies personal, interpersonal, and social competencies going together. the idea of combining methodologies and combining pedagogical, and the study provides many good ideas in that regard. How you can combine diversity of pedagogical strategy to address learning. It's not about one option or the other one, it's about combination of options, especially regarding what Tamara mentioned about foundational skills. Finally, the study can be a very good policy guidance instrument because it provides the tension that is normal in a region that is very diverse between commonalities and difference, but there are commonalities. And the commonalities that every learner matters equally, and we have to find a way that to provide an effective learning opportunity to every learner, and that's a common challenge for all countries. And finally, this idea that Damara mentioned and Professor Gala also about the more narrow or the more broader conceptualization of curriculum. We have to build on this broader understanding of curriculum. Being aware of what Damara mentioned, of the complexities and the tensions of that. Because if we move towards a broader understanding of curriculum, we are moving towards society. We are moving towards capturing the diversity of society, aspiration, ideals, points of view. So curriculum will be much more healthily controversial, but also much more sustaining society. So that's a tension. Either we insulate in ourselves and we talk about study programs, disciplines that are important because are critical for education, for curriculum, or we have the tendency also to move toward a more open understanding and incorporation and engagement of society. That's a critical discussion for the future. Thank you so much, Damara, back to you.
And thank you, Renato. Thank you very much. And we'll stay in touch. Unfortunately, as I said, I have to go to another meeting after this webinar, but we'll stay in touch and I will ask for a meeting to debrief us next week. So thank you once more for your presence, and many thanks also to your director, Mr. Ido Yao, who wanted to be with us, but he's very busy these days with different other programs, but we will have him with us in the next activities.
Sure. Time, yeah.
And,
he's very happy.
I hope, we discussed already with the IBE director and with Renato that next year we'll have at least one bigger conference on curriculum together, so that we can come back with these approaches, with new ideas, also based on today's discussion that helped a lot clarify our ideas about what should we research, how can we contribute to supporting countries' efforts in the realm of curriculum. Now, Dr. Al-Jufi, are you with us or are you busy now? Yeah, you're busy.
You're busy.
Yeah. Then I will give the floor now to Mr. Abdallah Ambusaidi, so from the Sultanate of Oman, for your 2 minutes wrapping up.
Thank you, Dikmara, and I think this gathering is very important. جدا مهم. We share the ideas, we share the experience between countries and around the Arab world, and also in the global. As I said in Arabic before, that نتمنى إن شاء Allah, we hope that we get in a series of studies regarding how the countries responded to the pandemic era, the way that the countries deals with the difficulties, the challenges they have. And from that, we can learn, inshallah, how in future, if we face maybe the same problem, how the education system can be more, can be use this experience to deal with the new issues. And thank you very much again, and I'm happy to be with you, and Dr. Ghada for your study and your colleague, also Renato also for your comments and suggestions, and also you are involving in the study. Thank you for all who are here today with us, and thank you, Dikmara, also for your leading this meeting, let's say, a very in effective way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Shukran, Dr. Abdullah. And you know, people say usually ladies first. Now we have a lady to talk at the end. So Mrs. Nawal, you're invited to close this webinar with you wrapping up. And again, thank you all for your very interesting contributions and for this emulation with regard to ideas and to our future together as a community of practice. So Mrs. Nawal, the floor is yours.
شكرا دكتورة كمال. طبعا يعني من المهم جدا ان احنا نستفيد من التجارب ومن الدراسات التي تقدم على جميع المستويات. يعني كانت هناك اسئله كيف يمكن الاستفاده من هذه الدراسه. استطيع ان اقول ان كل شخص من موقع عمله يستطيع ان يستفيد من اي تجربه او دراسه تتم، لانها يعني الهدف منها هو التطوير. فمثلا لو كان معنا مدير مدرسه يستطيع ان يطور العمل على مستواه كمدير مدرسه. بالنسبه لنا احنا كدول لابد أن تتحول هذه الدراسات إلى سياسات واستراتيجيات واضحة في العمل. أيضاً على مستوى المعلم، مستوى الطالب، ولي الأمر. الآن بعد كورونا أتوقع أن احنا أصبحنا في وضع يطلق عليها الواقع الجديد، يعني this is new norm. كلنا أصبحنا في وضع تم فيه تجربة أمور كثيرة لم تكن تجرب في جميع الدول لولا هذه الجائحة. لكن من المهم مثل ما طبعاً ذكر ريناتو أن يعني ليس الهدف من مثلا دمج التقنية في التعليم هو التقنية، هي ليست الهدف وإنما هي أداة. فحين تكون هناك حاجة لهذه الأداة يتم دمجها في العملية التعليمية لتضيف للمنهج، لأن مثل ما ذكرنا الهدف من وجود منهج هو أن نصل بالطالب إلى أفضل ما يمكنه من قدراته. فلا بد من تفريد التعليم وأن يكون هناك يعني فرصة للتعلم الشامل المتكامل لكل طالب. مهم جدا هو إدارة التغيير، ومثل ما قلت كل من مكان عمله يستطيع أن يضيف ويساهم في هذا التغيير، لكن نريد التغيير الأفضل. فمثلا في أحد الأسئلة كانت عن هل مثلا التعلم عبر الإنترنت أو عن بعد يصلح للطلبة الصغار. أنا أتفق تماما أن التعلم الغير متزامن وفي عدم وجود المعلم حق الأطفال الصغار في السن يمكن لا يناسبهم. فعندما نعد المنهج لمرحلة عمرية محددة لابد أن نرى احتياجاتهم ومقدراتهم ومهاراتهم، هل بإمكانهم أنهم يركزون معنا في بيئة تعليمية مثلا افتراضية. فدائما نؤكد أن يعني بالذات البيئات الافتراضية التعليمية ممكن تكون مناسبة جدا لمن هم أكبر سنا، فممكن نعطيهم حتى التعلم غير متزامن أو تعلم ذاتي. لكن لما يكون عندنا الطلبة من صغار السن من المهم جدا أن نركز على المهارات، وهناك أيضاً يعني مهارات اجتماعية تقدمها المدرسة والبيئة المدرسية يمكن ما تكون موجودة حتى في البيئة الافتراضية. مع أن طبعاً نؤكد على أهمية دمج التقنية في التعليم، ويمكن هذا ما يعني أوضحت لنا الجائحة بشكل أساسي أن التقنية كانت هي الأداة الأساسية التي ساهمت باستمرارية التعلم. الدول التي كانت مستعدة ولديها بنية تحتية جيدة، تدريب كافي للمعلمين، الطلبة قادرين على استخدام هذه الأدوات، استطاعوا أن يسيروا بهدوء وسلاسة في عملية التعلم، لم ينقطع عملية التعلم. لكن الدول التي لم تكن مستعدة كان هناك طبعاً في مشاكل. نؤكد على أهمية تطوير المناهج، ننظر إلى المنهج بالنظرة الشمولية. نتمنى الجميع يستفيد طبعا من هذه الدراسة وهذه اللقاءات، وإن شاء الله تجمعنا أيضا لقاءات أخرى معكم نستفيد ونفيد الآخرين بما هو موجود لدينا ولديكم. فكل التوفيق للجميع، وشكرا لمن حضر اليوم، لكل المتحدثين وأيضا الحضور اللي صراحة كانوا معنا اليوم. فشكرا للجميع، ونتمنى لقاءكم في مناسبات أخرى. شكرا.
Thank you, Mrs. Nawal. Thank you very much again. And thank you all. I will just be very brief at the end to say that we'll continue discussing with our partners like UNESCO IB, ABEX, other partners, our speakers of today, our critical friends who made such important contributions to find the ways for next year. And I hope in January we'll announce a series of other activities next year that we do in collaboration to elicit different issues and then to think together of a research that can really bring about much more insight into all these complicated issues. Your ideas are really rich and your suggestions wonderful. So I think the webinar was very fruitful with regard to these new directions we have to go. And as Dr. Nawal said, actually these studies, we can use them in different ways, you know, we hope that the studies are good, they are relevant, and then it's up to us how to make good usage of them, but they are needed. We need to expand our understanding of what is happening and the future of learning, which, as Renato said, cannot be tackled as business as usual. We are not in a world that deals with business as usual anymore. And even if we get rid of pandemic, I think we have to see about the potential of technologies and to really engage with these hybrid modalities much more than before and in a more serious way. So thanking you all, shukran, and stay well. Happy holidays, happy end of the year, which is very difficult for everybody, but we'll meet in January and we'll stay in touch. Shukran.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Let me just take a picture of all of you before we leave. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank
Take
you,
care.
Damara.
Bye.
Thank you, colleague.
Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Good
Thank you.
luck.
Pleasure, and
So,
we'll stay in touch. Yes. Shukran.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
thank you and bye. Bye.
I'll also disconnect now because I have to prepare for my next meeting, but we'll talk tonight, Narada. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs.
you.
Nawal. Thank you, Dr. Al-Jufi. Thank you, Dr. Dalla. And thank you, our colleagues, Lilian, Noor, Elza, Rana, Mahmoud. And shukran, Mahmoud. I hope, I pray you are well, okay?
Take care. God
Take
bless
care, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm now disconnecting. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.